can I look at you or should I really look at the lens?
Down the lens, I'll sort of look
Okay.
through the camera.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, good.
So, just introduce yourself first of all.
So I'm Marjan Wouda, and I live here in Darwin, in what happens to be the oldest house in Darwin. And yeah, I'm a sculptor. And I grew up on a farm in the Netherlands, but I've lived here, I've lived in England for more than 40 years. I trained as an artist here. So I think of myself as an English artist, but a Dutch person. Hello, Puss. I'm wearing my clogs. Oh dear. So this is the earliest rendition of the dun cow, this little bronze. Yeah, so some years ago I became interested in Lancashire folklore, and I particularly love it when you get stories that are really born out of a landscape. And the dun cow story is a really good example, because that story is from from Parlick Fell. So we have a beautiful bit of Pennine, Lancashire there, and so we have a story of a giant cow, which is very quite reminiscent of Norse mythology, of a kind of ur-cow that is enormous in dimension and is the beginning of all the rivers. So if you think about her milk flowing from her udders, that becomes the source of all rivers. So this has got iron oxide on it, yeah, which is of course like quite, it's rust essentially, and a sort of lovely earth tone.
That's great.
And then my favourite colour, of course. Just like terracotta, that's really good too. So yeah, so I made her really thin, poor thing. But, you know, I like the way, I always think cows are like a landscape on legs. You know, that vast, kind of relatively vast body. But also, you know, we're talking in this story about a giant of a cow. So how to make a tiny cow and make it inhabit the world of giants. I thought it'd be great to make that character and possibly to make her large, really large, and have her somewhere, have it in sculptural form on in the outdoor space. So I'm really interested in having outdoor sculptures because I think they have a presence outdoor, and I think also the environment is a kind of backdrop, and so it kind of adds. So you have, you know, amazing location, and then you have an amazing character and a beautiful form, and you kind of put those together, and you have more than 1 + 1. So this is kind of, you know, after the story really. So I try to make it like it's really a cow's bony body. And having grown up on a farm, I know a lot about cows and their bony bodies. So I feel I love that. I love that kind of the sticky out bits and the tightness of the skin over them. So I feel kind of, I think that's a big influence to becoming a sculptor, kind of that sort of awareness of of the structure and the layers. So there she is. She goes to drink at Nick's water pot. So a lot of this work I do in ink, which I love, because ink on wet paper just does its own thing, and it's really exciting when it just things happen and you're actually out of control. Can you see? It's just working on really wet paper so that the ink just runs. The idea is of the cow becoming the landscape, which in a way she does, because she dies. It's a very sad story. But there you go. Through human greed. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I love making, and I do have a preference for animal characters. I mean, it's not that I don't like people. In fact, I like people most of all. But I think in terms of storytelling and thinking about ourselves on this earth and thinking about whatever life throws at you, I think, I think the animal world gives us another way of exploring. That's Skriker again. There's this. There's a story of somebody who goes hunting and shoots a deer with a cherry pip, and then some years later goes back into the wood and meets that same stag with the cherry growing out of his head. Well, I suppose, I mean, I often feel like I need to apologize a bit for it being full of animals, you know, and what I mean is that I feel I need to explain it's not about that I so love animals that I have to make kind of lovely animals, you know. But you know, they have a really strong presence for me, and I think it is because I think they are kind of expressive, you know. So the dog is a sort of dark kind of presence, and yes, and the cow a sort of lighter presence, really. But yeah, they're strong characters. So yeah, about describing my work as an artist. It's all about the sound. So that is a good sound, although I think I had enough ink on. So that's a lino cut print called Spilled Milk.
Step back there and hold it up towards me.
So yes, so I like to play with stories, with you know, also I've done a lot of work like on nursery rhymes and on sayings, you know. I think it's also really kind of looking back at our sort of the culture, you know, like, I mean, this whole idea of familiars really fascinates me, and I think there is some sort of looking back at a time when we had, you know, we're really much more dependent or more aware of being dependent on living alongside animals. You know, but maybe we needed to hunt them more, or have keep them and sort of as farmers. But you know, so I think all that is really interesting. Sorry, should I not have turned that light off?
Good. Okay.
Off we go. Hello, puss. Big lumps still in there. Well, right now we're casting a small sculpture, so just showing how it starts with a pan of wax. But I want it to be fully melted.
What's the final product going to be? What are you guys like filming this for?
Well, I guess just sort of a day in the life. What do you think, Andy? A day in the life of the artist?
Possibly. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. There she is. Yes,
Now,
yes.
Is that coincidence? Have you done that on purpose?
Well, I mean, well, it was maybe only, I mean, I was aware of the story and already really interested in the story, but yes, I am also really bothered about climate change, and I think, you know, I think I can see sort of resonances there with particularly in the story of the dun cow, which is really about well, it's about somebody not sort of wasting the beautiful resource that she is able to give this cow. You know, plenty of milk for all, but yeah. So there's a sort of sub theme of that saying, you know, yeah, if you waste it, then you might end up with nothing. Not all planned out ahead. That there is, you know, that there is that. Yeah, I don't know how to best explain play, but yeah, that things can happen, accidents can happen, and that you really engage with the material. You know, so we talked about ink before, working with ink on wet paper. It means stuff happens, you know, the ink starts to flow in places that you hadn't perhaps anticipated, but those are the things that are, you know, that remain exciting, you know, to me and hopefully to other people too, you know, that you've sort of captured that moment and you've sort of gone with that, you know, on a journey. You're kind of, you have a sort of conversation with the material, you know, whether the metal says like, oh, I want to be bendy and I don't want to make sharp edges, or whether the clay says I want to be soft and squidgy, and so on. So working with all those kind of well, essences, if you like. Yeah. All right, well, that'll do us.